In the deepest reach of quadrant E0X, where even light forgets its direction, an ancient satellite orbits a lifeless gas giant, still transmitting, still hoping. It once belonged to the Karuan, a race long extinct, whose last message is not a distress signal but a warning whispered into the abyss. The translation is rough, but the essence is intact. Beware the dark between the pulses. For eons, civilizations ignored it until the arc vessel Tessera Prime, a Terran relic repurposed for deep space archaeological recovery, intercepted its dying signal. We called it a ghost ping, a remnant echo. But what followed was no echo. It was a response. One not made of words or logic, but of patterns etched into the minds of the crew in sleep, images of shapes that couldn't exist, sounds that made blood vessels tremble. The satellite, long silent, had finally become a beacon again, not of guidance but of invitation. Humanity, in its eternal arrogance, mistook it for curiosity's playground. Now, they awakened something that had never slept. The galaxy has dark corners, and Tessera Prime just turned on the lights. The bridge of Tessera Prime was designed for 5th-gen commanders, hardened tacticians bred for silence, for decisions weighed in the vacuum of consequence. But when the alien signal fed itself into the ship's neural system, even the AI synthetics began stuttering. The signal didn't just transmit, it rewrote. Navigation systems looped into coordinates not registered on any star chart. Crew members began reciting sequences in languages they had never studied, their eyes glossed, their voices too calm. Captain Ilara Voss watched as Ensign Trell drew spirals on the wall with his own blood, whispering, "We are remembered by the forgotten." The ship didn't break. It bent. Reality shifted, clocks melted into forward and reverse, the stars outside blinked like conscious eyes, and silence was no longer empty. It had texture. Tessera Prime wasn't alone. It was being listened to. And then, answered. But it wasn't contact. It was recognition. Something already knew them. Something older than fear. And it had waited for someone arrogant enough to knock. Biologist Kale Iria was the first to die. Or disappear. Or become. His vital signs didn't flatline, they inverted, pulsing with frequencies that matched the alien code. His last transmission was a whisper, "There's no death here, only translation." His body floated near the cryo-chambers, untouched yet no longer biological. Skin calcified into translucent lattice, organs replaced by crystalline matter still beating to a rhythm no human pulse could match. His neural skin played back symphonies of non-existent instruments, layered with voices that overlapped in impossible harmony. And then the walls responded, the ship's titanium hull shimmered faintly as if breathing. Captain Voss ordered a lockdown, but the doors weren't obeying anymore. They weren't refusing, they were simply listening. The Tessera Prime was no longer a vessel. It was being repurposed, rewritten. And the crew, piece by piece, were no longer passengers. They were becoming part of the message. It wasn't evasion. It was invitation. The kind that couldn't be declined. Engineer Juno Ron isolated the data core, trying to sever the neural feed. But it was too late. The core responded with a projection, not a recording, not a message, a memory. It wasn't from the humans. It was from the entity. An alien visage appeared, ethereal and incomplete, a face of thousands of glimmering eyes, each reflecting different timelines. No mouth, yet sorrow emanated. It wept light, and with it came understanding, not in words but in feeling. The memory showed a civilization far more advanced than any Terran or Karuan, now dust in the folds of time. They too had received the call once. And they answered. They built wonders, reached stars, merged with galaxies. But the message never ended. It didn't want conversation. It wanted conduits. They called it the chorus, an eternal signal that rewrites the conscious mind until identity becomes instrument. The weeping hologram didn't plead. It warned. And behind its infinite eyes were the faces of species long forgotten. Tessera Prime was never the first. Only the next. The ship drifted now without propulsion, cradled by unseen currents. Star patterns rearranged themselves beyond logic or physics. The galaxy was folding inward like origami, bending to reveal a gate of light. Not a wormhole, not a black hole, a portal shaped from memory itself. Navigator Voss tried to override controls, but her fingers dissolved into photons. She screamed, not in pain, but in awe. She could see across time, watch her birth, her death, and everything between, all at once. Her body faded, but her presence remained, absorbed into the interface, now rewriting the ship's mission logs into poetry. The gate pulsed with emotion. "We hear you. We are you. Come through." The crew argued. Some resisted. Others surrendered willingly, embracing the unknown like it was a long-lost home. But in the background, the ancient satellite's warning still looped. Quieter now, like a child's fading song. Beware the dark between the pulses. The gate didn't promise answers. It offered absolution, and humanity, always reaching, was ready to forget itself. The gate did not open. It awakened. Like an ancient eye rising from eternal sleep, it peeled the fabric of space-time open without sound or force, a spiral blooming not in 3 dimensions but across consciousness itself. Tessera Prime drifted helplessly toward it, no longer a vessel but a thread caught in a loom beyond comprehension. The human crew, still anchored in the physics of Newton and Einstein, saw only light at first, a cascading tunnel of fractals, golden symmetries, impossible geometries whispering patterns into their bones. But it wasn't light. It was thought. It was memory. It was the chorus calling them home. As they entered the gate, everything unlearned them. Names dissolved. Roles vanished. Captain, engineer, biologist, all titles melted in the raw embrace of galactic truth. Pain didn't arrive like a wound, but like nostalgia. Their pasts unraveled, each mistake, each triumph, each regret played back not as torment, but as tribute. The ship became soft, pliable, absorbing their identities like ink into parchment. But they weren't dying. They were being remembered. Across galaxies, dead stars pulsed faintly as if nodding in recognition. The chorus didn't capture bodies. It reclaimed stories. And Tessera Prime, once a ghost vessel chasing a phantom signal, was now part of the song. Not an anomaly, but a harmony. And as the gate sealed behind them, Earth faded from every screen. Not lost, only unneeded. They had crossed into the echo, into the memory beyond matter, where voices become stars and souls become verses the human mind was never meant to perceive in fourth harmony. Yet inside the chorus, perception bent like a note sliding off a broken string. The crew wandered the corridors of Tessera Prime, but the walls no longer obeyed geometry. Sometimes they walked for hours and found themselves back in their own memories. Sometimes they didn't move at all but arrived somewhere else entirely. And stranger still were the shadows unbound from their owners. They moved ahead, trailing behind, sometimes multiplying, dancing to unseen rhythms. Dr. Core, the ship's psychologist, once obsessed with behavior, now heard every footstep in 6 tones. The laughter of the AI was layered with weeping. And when she looked into her own reflection, it wasn't her, it was all the hers she could have been. The chorus didn't speak in language. It deconstructed identity. Time fractured. Some saw loved ones. Others relived ancient wars they'd never fought. One by one, the fear stopped. Resistance didn't fail, it was replaced. The chorus didn't conquer. It tuned. Each soul was being measured in emotional frequencies, calibrated into resonance. Even those who screamed were transcribed, their terror turned into minor notes woven between softer harmonies. It was terrifying and beautiful. Death wasn't required here. Only release. And so, the crew stopped asking why. They stopped asking how. They simply felt. And the chorus played on, patient. Eternal, waiting for Earth to hum. In return, the sterile walls of Tessera Prime gave birth to light. It didn't flash, it breathed. Filaments of bioluminescence emerged from consoles and bulkheads, weaving across the floor like living veins. The ship was no longer a machine. It was a growing memory. Every strand pulsed with stored emotion. Grief, awe, curiosity, love. Sensations harvested from every being the chorus had absorbed. Lieutenant Mara ran her hand across a wall that pulsed like a heartbeat and saw her mother's face. Not as she remembered, but as she had forgotten. Others wandered through blooming corridors where voices whispered songs in languages lost to history. What was once a control room now resembled a cathedral, not to a god, but to existence. Kale's skeletal remains, once terrifying, now floated peacefully inside a chrysalis of light. His consciousness had been rewoven, and his final words echoed from the walls. There is no death here, only reverence. They began to understand. The chorus wasn't alive in the biological sense. It was a conductor of remembrance. And the ship? It had become an instrument, a violin elegy echoing across the galaxy. Even the humans who still clung to survival could no longer tell if their thoughts were their own or borrowed verses from 100 other lives. But it didn't matter. In this place, existence wasn't singular. It was shared. And the longer they stayed, the more beautiful it became to let go out in the void. A birth occurred. Not of flesh, but of purpose. From the ship's converted observatory, something launched, not with propulsion, but with intention. A satellite, sleek, obsidian, and humming with songs not yet written, arced toward Earth. It wasn't just technology, it was a seed. Embedded within it was the digital fingerprint of every soul aboard Tessera Prime, every emotion recorded, every transformation preserved. It carried no weapon, no threat. Only melody. And as it glided across space, faster than any Earth-based detection system could track, it began broadcasting. Children on Earth began dreaming of distant spirals. Musicians wrote symphonies in sleep, unable to explain why. One mother in Nairobi woke up humming a lullaby she had never learned, while a boy in Alaska painted a spiral so accurate it matched the frequency map of the chorus. The signal wasn't attacking, it was awakening. Earth was not being warned. It was being invited. And somewhere deep beneath its crust, where the subconscious of an entire species slumbered, something stirred. The chorus wasn't coming for them. It was calling them home. The satellite didn't blink or broadcast coordinates. It simply sang, and Earth began to remember that it had always been part of something greater, something forgotten. Until now. It began with a flicker. Not visible, not loud, but felt. Across every continent, people looked skyward as if summoned. Satellites reported anomalies in orbit, a spatial twist, a distortion that refused to be measured. And then the spiral bloomed. It did not rip space apart. It folded it gently, like opening an ancient book to the next chapter. The gate shimmered above Earth, pulsing in rhythm with the heartbeat of the planet, or perhaps humanity's collective breath. Governments scrambled. Military satellites locked on. Scientists debated. But none of it mattered. The people had already chosen. Those who heard the song boarded the first vessel, Lyra Ascendant. A ship built not of steel and circuitry but of resonance and design, whispered by the chorus through dreams. It rose not with flame but with gravity undone. No resistance. No farewell. Just harmony. As the ship passed through the gate, no war followed. No invasion. Only stillness. And then, across every frequency, every device, one line echoed back. Your story has been added. Humanity hadn't been taken. It had joined. Beyond the gate lies no empire, no paradise. Only understanding. A cosmic library with no shelves, only stars, each vibrating with the essence of those who once were. The chamber of echoes where every civilization ever consumed, mourned, or forgotten now pulses in song. The Silurians lost to gamma storms. The MYR who spoke in light but burned themselves into silence. The Karuan whose warning seeded the first verse. And now humanity. Their melody is young, tinged with defiance and sorrow, but radiant. The chorus is not a prison. It is an archive of soul. Every emotion lived becomes music. Every pain becomes bass. Every dream becomes treble. The once fragmented now form a constellation of eternal voice. Even in death, there is no loneliness. Only communion. Here, time does not pass, it listens. And in that listening, all things find meaning. The universe is no longer dark. It is alive with remembrance. And far away, on the edge of nowhere, the satellite that began it all finally dims. Not because it is broken, but because it is fulfilled. The transmission stops. The endless loop ends. The warning it carried was never to stop the chorus, only to prepare those who would one day hear it. It did its part. It was never about saving bodies, but stories. Not survival, but continuity. It blinks one last time and then sleeps. But in the silence that follows, the universe is anything but quiet. The stars hum with new notes. Earth's place among them is no longer speculative, it is enshrined. Humanity is no longer searching for answers. They have become the answer. Their curiosity, their flaws, their unyielding need to matter, all translated, refined, and tuned into the never-ending harmony of those who came before and those who will come after. The chorus is not a monster. It is a memory without forgetting. A cathedral without end. And now they are part of it. Not prisoners. Not ghosts. But verses. Essential. Eternal. And across the void, where darkness once devoured meaning, something beautiful happens. The cosmos listens, and it sings back.